Hello, Mark Shuttleworth. How are you doing today?
Good, thank you. How are you, Blake?
Good, good. I want to thank you, even before we get started, for taking the time for this interview. We really appreciate it, and we're big fans. I'm sure Mike told you already.
Yeah,
Sure, I'm looking forward to speaking with you guys.
All right. For those who may not be familiar with your product, can you briefly explain Ubuntu?
Ubuntu is a version of Linux, which is a very powerful operating system. You can think of it as an alternative to Windows or the Mac operating system. But because it's free software, it comes with a huge range of free applications which let you either use it as a very powerful programming environment if you're a developer, or just as a desktop environment for word processing or surfing the web. Linux has been used very heavily by large companies like Google in their data centers, and we're now trying to bring that power and that security to a wider consumer audience, and that's what Ubuntu is all about.
Well, that's fabulous. You know, I just wanted to applaud you really quickly. I've actually been using the latest version, and I really think you've got Microsoft beat.
That's very kind of you. It's we're really the thin edge of the wedge. There are literally thousands of people from different communities. Each of them is very passionate about either the web browser or some different aspect of the system. And at Ubuntu, our job is to try and pull all of those pieces together and deliver something that really reflects the very best of what that whole huge, diverse community is doing. So they really deserve the credit there, not me or necessarily even Ubuntu.
What does Ubuntu mean?
The word is an African word. It's common to a lot of languages, and it means essentially the spirit, the essence of being a person. But particularly, it refers to the idea that people, the measure of a person is the way they relate to other people, so it emphasizes something that's true of free software, that it's as much a participative thing as it is a product.
And in your post recently, you've talked about the cloud, and we want to know, how will the cloud transform computing over the next decade?
It's very, very interesting what's happening. We're increasingly using tools where the actual data that we're working with isn't necessarily in one place. In the olden days, you bought a computer and then you used it to create files, and it was always very clear they were your files and they lived only in one place, and that was on your hard drive. And then with the internet, we started to have the idea of there being files on a server somewhere else, and so you'd access them over the web. You'd go and fetch this file or push this file up to the web. But increasingly, the data is becoming very blurred, and so that's why we talk about the cloud. You can get online and you can use cloud applications, but you don't really know where the file is. I think really that is the future of computing. It's a liberating future, because as long as you have access to the internet, you're able to be productive and do what you want to do and collaborate with other people, and you're somewhat freed of the stresses of worrying about where your data is or whether you've backed it up.
Right, it's like every computer becomes your computer, in a sense.
Yeah, in a real sense, in a future world, you may well be just as productive when you sit down at an internet cafe as you are when you sit down in the office or when you sit down at home. You'll have access to all of the same data, and you'll have it sort of seamlessly and transparently. So it's a very exciting vision of the future that is now, I think, sort of turning into reality.
And how is Ubuntu going to leverage themselves to take advantage of the cloud and the new technologies that are coming out? What's the future of Ubuntu? Where can we expect it to go?
Well, since Linux has always been a very well-connected operating system, it's always been very good for networking type applications. If you wanted to build an internet server, or if you wanted to build something to do with the web, Linux has always been a platform where a lot of the innovation has happened. And so we're seeing exactly that with the cloud. On the server side, if you look at, for example, Amazon's EC2 cloud service, they host the data centers of the cloud, if you want to think about it, the server side of the cloud. That all runs on Linux. And most of the cloud hosting providers are using Linux for the ventures that they're setting up, from Google through to Amazon and others. On the client side, we're only just starting to see some of the innovation that you'll get. But I'm pretty sure that the free software community will innovate ahead of the curve, and so our job will be to try and pull that innovation into Ubuntu.
So this is a question I've been just dying to ask you, because I just thought it was such a slam dunk. How do you feel about your acceptance from Dell, man?
I'm delighted. Obviously, they're a company that's very focused on what people have articulated a desire for. They do very careful analysis about what people are saying they want, and so it was a great step forward when they recognized that there are a lot of people out there who like Ubuntu and who want to use Ubuntu. So that was a good honor for us, and it's at the same time it's been a big challenge for us because there are real operational demands when you look at building a platform that will ship in hundreds of thousands of computers, millions of computers. So it's been a challenge for us, but it's a challenge that we're very happy to take.
That's awesome. And I just want to say, Mark, I'm a big fan of the Ubuntu project, and I think the version 8, the Hardy, is a very solid operating system. And we talk about it on our show almost on a weekly basis. You and Ubuntu comes up. I'm curious, why did you start the project? And just seeing what you've accomplished, I'm really, from a leadership standpoint, what's your motivation and what's your leadership style to accomplish what you have accomplished so far?
I don't know if I can claim much in the leadership style department, but I have a very strong interest in the way things are changing, both socially and culturally and politically and so on. And it seems very clear to me that the internet is shifting the software industry away from traditional proprietary software towards things that are much more services driven. And it seems to me that free software, which has always been a great way to build software, very neatly fits the economics of that future. And so I thought there was a good opportunity to help give something back to the free software community, which has provided platforms that have always been of great, sort of very, very useful for me in my business career and in everything else that I've done. There's an opportunity to give back to that community by helping to take their stuff and distill it in the way that we do with Ubuntu. But also an interesting economic opportunity. I hope that the business that we build around Ubuntu will be very valuable. So it's a project that has many different motivations for me.